It all started with something so small, something most people wouldn't even think twice about. But sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness ripple out in ways you could never imagine. That morning, the sun hadn't even fully risen when Jasmine pulled into the gas station on her way to work. She was a single mother, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on and food on the table for her little girl. Money was always tight, stress always heavy, but Jasmine carried herself with a quiet strength that most people overlooked. She didn't have much, but what she did have was a heart that refused to turn cold, no matter how hard life got. As she filled up her beat-up old sedan, she noticed a man a few pumps away. He was hard to miss, broad shoulders, heavy leather vest patched with the words, "Hell's Angels," tattoos peeking out from his sleeves, and a kind of rugged wear on his face that told stories of roads traveled and battles fought. But what caught Jasmine's eye wasn't his intimidating presence. It was the way he patted his pockets, the frustration in his eyes as he realized he didn't have enough cash to cover the gas. His motorcycle sat there, half-fueled, his pride clear but his situation obvious. Most people would have looked the other way. Most would have thought, that's his problem. But Jasmine, tired as she was, struggling as she was, walked over with a gentle smile. "Hey," she said softly, holding out her card, "let me cover the rest." The biker looked at her, stunned. "You don't even know me," he muttered, almost embarrassed. Jasmine shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Everyone needs a little help sometimes." It wasn't much, just $20, but to the man standing there it was more than fuel. It was dignity. It was humanity. He thanked her, his deep voice carrying more emotion than he intended, and she just smiled and waved it off. She drove away, never expecting to see him again, but the world has a funny way of bringing things full circle. The next evening, Jasmine was at home in her small rented house, helping her daughter with homework at the kitchen table. The day had been long, bills were piling up on the counter, and her back ached from standing on her feet all shift. Just as she was about to pour herself a cup of tea, she heard it, a low rumble in the distance. At first, she thought it was thunder, but it grew louder, deeper, shaking the windows, rattling her very chest. Her daughter looked up wide-eyed. "Mummy, what's that?" Jasmine went to the window and froze. Coming down her quiet little street was a line of motorcycles, dozens of them, headlights piercing the dusk, engines growling like a storm rolling in. Neighbors peeked out of their doors, some shutting them quickly in fear, others just staring in disbelief. One by one, the bikes pulled up in front of Jasmine's house. The leather vests, the patches, the steel, an army of Hell's Angels standing at her doorstep. Jasmine's heart pounded. Fear crept up her spine. What did they want? Why were they here? Then the man from the gas station stepped forward. He pulled off his helmet, his gruff face softened with something that almost looked like gratitude. He met Jasmine's eyes and gave a nod. "You probably don't remember me," he said, his voice carrying over the idling engines. "Yesterday, you paid for my gas. You didn't have to. You didn't ask for anything. But that meant something to me. To all of us." Before Jasmine could respond, he motioned to the rest of the bikers. One of them stepped forward with a grocery bag, another with a box. Then another, and another. Within minutes, Jasmine's small porch was filled with bags of food, envelopes of money, and even a brand new backpack stuffed with supplies for her daughter. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't understand," she whispered. The biker smiled faintly. "We take care of our own. Yesterday you treated me like a human being when you didn't have to. Today, we're here to show you that kindness never dies. It comes back, louder than you expect." Jasmine broke down, tears streaming as she hugged her daughter close. For so long, she had carried the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. And here, on this quiet night, an entire brotherhood stood before her, reminding her that she wasn't invisible. That goodness, even in a hard world, still mattered. Her neighbors, who had been watching from a distance, slowly stepped outside. What they saw wasn't fear. It wasn't trouble. It was a community moment. A reminder that appearances don't always tell the whole story. Those men in leather, with their roaring engines and tough exteriors, had hearts just as real as anyone else. From that night on, Jasmine's life changed. Not because the bikers gave her gifts, not because of the groceries or the money, but because they gave her something she thought she had lost: hope. And the story spread. People in her neighborhood talked about it, people online shared it. A small act of kindness had turned into a wildfire of inspiration. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this: you never know the battle someone else is fighting. You never know how far a small act of kindness can reach. Jasmine gave $20, and in return, she received something priceless. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists in this world, don't let it stop here. Share it, spread it, and let's keep this chain of humanity alive. And if you believe in stories that inspire, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because we need more reminders like this, more proof that even in a world that feels divided, compassion still has the power to unite us all. Because at the end of the day, kindness is the only fuel that will never run out. Jasmine sat on her couch that night long after the bikers had gone, her daughter asleep in her arms, the bags of groceries still sitting on the kitchen counter. She stared at them, almost afraid to believe it was real. For years she had lived paycheck to paycheck, pinching pennies, clipping coupons, cutting corners wherever she could. She had gone without meals so her daughter could eat. She had worked 12-hour shifts on her feet, only to come home and collapse with exhaustion. No one ever noticed. No one ever asked how she was doing. And yet, with one small gesture, a stranger's gas, her whole world had shifted. The next morning, word had already spread across her neighborhood. When she opened her door, her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, was standing there with a puzzled look. "Jasmine," she said, clutching her shawl, "I saw them. I saw all those bikers last night. I thought trouble had come to our street, but then I saw the groceries they carried inside. I don't understand. What happened?" Jasmine smiled, though her eyes still carried tears. "It was kindness, Mrs. Henderson. Just kindness coming back around." Her neighbor shook her head in disbelief. "In all my years, I've never seen anything like it." By that afternoon, Jasmine was at work, telling her coworker what had happened. The story spilled out between tears and laughter, and before long someone recorded her words and shared them online. Within hours, the video began to spread. People couldn't believe it. Bikers, often judged and feared, showing up not with anger, but with generosity. But for the Hells Angels who came to Jasmine's door, it wasn't about publicity. It wasn't about making a scene. For them, it was about loyalty to something bigger. Later, Jasmine learned that the man whose gas she had paid for, his name was Mark, had been having a hard time himself. He had lost his job 2 weeks before. His pride kept him from asking anyone for help. That $20 gesture reminded him that even in his struggle, he wasn't alone. And when he told his brothers about it, they didn't laugh. They didn't brush it off. They said, "If someone had the heart to help you when you were down, then we ride to show her the same." That's why they came. That's why the roar of engines filled her street that night. It wasn't about intimidation. It was about gratitude. Over the following days, Jasmine noticed something remarkable. Her neighbors, people who had been living side by side for years without saying more than a polite hello, began to talk to one another. They checked in. They asked questions. They began to care again. The act of kindness that had started with a single gas pump was now awakening something in the whole community. Jasmine's daughter, little Maya, felt it too. One evening, she tugged on her mother's sleeve and said, "Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be like you." Jasmine blinked back tears. "Like me? Why, sweetheart?" "Because you helped someone, and then so many people helped us. I think kindness is magic." And in that moment, Jasmine realized her daughter was right. Kindness is magic. It can't be measured in dollars or weighed on a scale, but its effects ripple outward, bigger than anyone can imagine. Weeks passed, but Jasmine never forgot that night. Sometimes when the evening grew quiet, she swore she could hear the faint echo of motorcycle engines in the distance. Not in fear, but as a reminder that she was seen, that her story mattered. And here's the truth for anyone listening right now: you don't have to be rich to make a difference. You don't have to have power or influence. Jasmine didn't. She had $20, a heart full of compassion, and the courage to act. That was enough to set off a chain reaction of hope that touched dozens of lives and inspired thousands more. So when life feels heavy, when you wonder if kindness still exists in the world, remember Jasmine's story. Remember the bikers who showed up not with fists, but with open hands. Remember that one simple choice, to step forward instead of turning away, can change everything. And if this story stirred something in your heart, don't let it stop with you. Keep it alive, share it, spread it, and most importantly, live it. Be someone's Jasmine. Be someone's reminder that goodness is still out there. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about a black woman at a gas station and a group of bikers. It's about us. All of us. And the truth that no matter how tough or divided the world seems, compassion still has the power to unite strangers into family. So if you believe in that message, if you want to see more stories like this, then hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and join us. Together, we can keep the engine of kindness roaring louder than fear, louder than hate, louder than anything else. Because just like fuel in a tank, kindness doesn't just keep one person going, it keeps the whole world moving forward.